Good morning everyone, my name is Crystal and welcome to my YouTube channel. Good morning. I hope everyone had a great Saturday and a great Saturday evening. I'm here in my flat in Rochester, Kent. It's a Saturday morning. So Friday evening I was just indoors, just watching YouTube videos again. It was extremely hot, I was sweating like fuckery. And yeah, I must have been sweating buckets. It's hard to go to sleep in this weather, it really is. So I end up falling asleep in the early hours of the morning because I'm actually exhausted. And then I've woken up a bit later than I normally do. So there you go. Alexa, good morning.
Good morning. On this day in 1926, the first set of electric traffic lights went into operation in the UK. They were installed in London to help control traffic, and the green light was soon given for more of them.
Alexa, what's the time? Alexa, the time. Oh dear. Alexa, what's the time?
Good morning, Crystal. It's 9 a.m.
Alexa, what's the date today?
It's Saturday, the 3rd of August.
Alexa, can you tell me a joke?
Why can't you eat a Wookiee? They're too chewy.
And Alexa, whose birthday is it today? Alexa, whose birthday is it today?
Today's famous birthdays include American football player Tom Brady, American actor Martin Sheen, American musician, songwriter and record producer James Hetfield, Canadian actress Evangeline Lilly, and English film and television actor Stephen Graham.
Right guys, the sun is not out at the moment. There looks like there is a breeze outside. A breeze. I hope so, because I need some air. I can't breathe. I can see that there's the trees. There's a bit of breeze out there. I water my plants every morning. So I've just watered my plants and sort my windmills out. I'm crooked. You can see the trees blowing. So it looks like it's cooler outside actually, because there's trees are blowing and there's a breeze, but inside this flat it is so hot. Struggling to breathe. Yeah, so very pleased that I have got my post. So I've got my bank card, PIN number and my mum's money. I'm very glad about that. I'm still trying to lose a bit more weight, so I'm not going to jump out to the co-op just yet. It's Saturday anyway, so I probably won't jump out to the co-op today. So yeah, it looks like the sky is overcast and cloudy, and it looks like we might actually get some rain today, so that'll be a good thing, because I don't think we've had a lot of rain in Kent for a while, and everything's drying up, including my skin and hair. Oh. Yeah, like I said last night, I just tried to keep cool. I keep sitting in front of the fans to keep cool. It's really, really hot in here, and I'm sat watching the TV or the YouTube with the fans all over me. I must have gone to bed, gone 12 a.m. in the morning. I'd made coffee, I'd had a few snacks, and I laid down, and you eventually go to sleep. I had to keep getting up, because I like to sleep with a cover over me. I do. So I like to sleep with a cover over me, because I just feel naked without one. And I thought, right, I had to keep getting up and putting the fans in different places, because I was getting hot in different places. So I was getting up and putting a fan there, putting a fan over there, putting it over there. And eventually I must have gone to sleep, and I slept right through to gone 8 a.m. in the morning, because I went to sleep late. It's not too bad at the moment. Things ain't too bad. Not as bad as I thought I was gonna be. I've got to phone up an electrical company, and that's about it really today. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm waiting for a TikTok parcel now, just a couple of bits in it, some socks. I keep losing my socks. It doesn't matter how many socks I've got, right? I end up with odd socks. I lose my socks. So I've ordered some more socks, and I'm going to try and keep hold of these ones. Alexa, LBC Radio.
LBC London from Global Player.
American Express asking first of all if I'd clicked on a link for an Every scam. I said, yeah, I have. And for about the next hour, I was held on the line by American Express, going through the details of the scam and discussing charges on my account. And this incredibly helpful man also said he was notifying my bank to let them know about it. And at the end of this very long conversation, he hung up and said, "You're probably here from the bank next." So I hung up the phone, and within about 10 seconds, the phone rang, and it was my bank saying, "Oh, I'm listing all these dodgy transactions on my account, saying that I've got to change my logins online and my password, and what." And then, of course, I then told them what my login and password were so they could be changed. And I still hadn't twigged. And I'll tell you, the lowest point for me is I was doing most of this in the car park at Tesco. It's about half a mile from my home on the hottest day of the year. And the bank guy said, "Oh, I really need some details from your statements, which I can access from my phone." So he said, "I don't mind hanging on the line if you run back home." So I can't park where I am. So I left the car in Tesco's, and I ran for 15 minutes on the hottest day of the year with a dodgy neck to my house to get to my computer to read out details of my financial arrangements to my bank. And then I hung up, and then I got another call from my bank. I said, "Oh, it's funny, I've just been talking to your colleagues." And they said, "Oh, really?" And I hadn't been talking to their colleagues. I'd been talking to scammers. Scam American Express, Scam Bank. Now, before we get to talk to our expert, I have to say American Express were absolutely amazing. My new card arrived days earlier than expected. All transactions cancelled, all the dodgy transactions cancelled. Incredibly reassuring, very polite. First class all the way. My bank, which on the day of the fraud, and I actually spoke to them the first time, said, "Don't worry, we'll look after you." Yesterday, when I noticed that every dodgy transaction that they read back to me, all but one had been stopped, but one of them, for £19,000, appeared to allow to have gone through a standing order. And I've been asking my bank for the last 48 hours if and when I'm going to get my money back, and so far, they're refusing to tell me, which I can tell you is doing my head in. So I'm left wondering, and to be fair, to the Barclays guy, this is an epic situation, and I'm guessing that Barclays have probably got their own reasons for wanting to join a bunch of other banks and major corporations in pressing our government to do more to tackle fraudsters, and that is, of course, that they are being put on the hook for the money that is being taken, or should be. Now, some scams have been dealt with legally. we've changed the law to ensure that banks do compensate. This, I think it's called push scams. We're going to get more details. APP push scams. They're authorised push payment. This is where you're tricked into handing money over to criminals. So I suppose I know I should be recompensed, but what I'm interested in really hearing from you guys listening is, one, whether you've been a victim of a fraud or a scam, how it made you feel, because this time around it's crushed me. I don't mind telling you, I've had a really down week. And then the critical question is whether you feel that your banks and credit card companies looked after you. 0345 6060 973, the number for your stories, for your feelings. Did you feel looked after? Am I the only one who never seems to get his money back? If I don't get my money back from this one, the other scam, which was someone posing as my builder after hacking their email, that one cost me 8.5, so I'm going to be nearly 30 grand down. And I can't afford it. Who can? Who can? Well, Dean Dunham, consumer lawyer, presenter of LBC's Consumer Hour, Sunday nights from 9, joins me now. Good morning to you, Dean.
Good morning.
We have a coalition now, including Barclays Bank, led by Rich, BT, Nationwide, NatWest, Virgin Media, some of the big name corporations involved, pushing government for leadership. There's a little bit of self-interest in there as well, isn't there, Dean?
Well, there's a lot of self-interest in there, of course. And I mean, the big question you've asked at the top of your show is, are the banks doing enough to help people like yourself, victims of fraud? And the answer is no. And Matthew, let me tell you this, because last year, the financial regulator, the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, it did a review. It looked at this very question that you're asking today. The answer was, the banks are not doing enough. Let me just read you a very small list. It said, poor customer outcomes, poor customer impact, poor customer treatment, poor customer support, poor complaints handling, long delays. Matthew, the list goes on and on and on. The banks are not doing enough. It's not just you saying it, not just me saying it. The regulator says it. It has to change.
I thought it was changing. I thought these APP, authorised push payment frauds, were dealt with legally.
Let me tell you a bit about that. So we've got something called the Contingent Reimbursement Model Code. We call it CRM code in short. And what that basically is, it's a voluntary scheme where there's been an app push payment, like you're saying, which is basically where you transfer money from your bank account to it ends up being to a fraudster, so therefore you've effectively lost your money. And what this code says is that for the banks that are signed up to the scheme, which is most of the high street brands, most of the banks that your listeners today will be banking with, if you're banked with one of those banks and you lose money to a scam, then the bank in the first instance ought to pay you back. The problem we've got, and this review went into this, is that often the banks are saying, no, we're not going to pay you back because, and normally it's because they say, well, you ought to have known better. And Matthew, in most cases, that's just not true, because you've explained your scam, what happened to you. They're very, very sophisticated. I hear from people like yourself every single Sunday with these scams. Your story is a very familiar story. The good news is you're, in my opinion, definitely going to get your money back because you fall squarely into this. But you say about the law changing, there is going to be a change, because in October this year, this code, this CRM code that I've told you about, it's being changed, it's being updated, and we're being told it's going to be far better for consumers, it's going to be far more protections. The banks will not be able to wriggle out of claims as much as they're doing now, and the burden of proof, as we call it, which means who has to prove what, falls with the bank. They will have to prove that you were negligent if they're going to deny you a claim under this scheme.
Now, on that issue, am I negligent? So I've done probably half a dozen programs on scams, so I know about the scams that are out there because I've discussed them with people like yourself. I've avoided probably hundreds that have been sent to me via their email or message successfully, but they got me on a bad day. Head full of medication, rushing around, in pain, having a difficult day, and And a friend said to me, "You're just the person they were looking for. You turn down 100 of the scams, and you think, you're never going to get me, and then they get you. They only need one of you, and all the 100 times you knock them back, they don't count for anything. They've got you, and so I can't help but I am culpable because I pressed the link, but I can't help but feel I'm a victim twice. I'm a victim to the fraudsters, and at the moment I feel like I'm a victim to the bank."
I'm not surprised you feel like that, and many people feel the same. I mean, look, the payment systems regulator, as we call it, which puts this code into practice and should be regulating it, it says it's a very high bar when you consider, was the customer, in this case were you, negligent? The answer is going to be, in most cases, no, you were not. And again, I come back to, these are very sophisticated scams. How are you meant to know if it's a real situation or a scam? And the answer is, in most cases, you're not. So my view is, no, you are not negligent. I've listened to your story. I say it's a familiar story, and this is why this code was implemented in the first place. The banks, it's a voluntary code. They all volunteered to join it, and therefore they ought to be paying out. I think you're going to be paid out. Matthew, let me tell you this.
I'll buy you a drink if I do.
Well, you're going to be buying me that drink because people call me nearly every week with these scams, and they're always distraught. They feel their mental health has been impacted, like you've said, and it's no wonder that's the case. I give them this advice about this code. I tell them, if your bank comes back and says no, which they may do, take them to the Financial Ombudsman Service. That's where you go if you think your bank is wrong.
I've heard you say that.
And it nearly always works, Matthew.
Can I just throw, this is an idea from a listener, and I just read it and immediately thought, this is excellent. It's from Brennan, and it reads, any transaction above £100 coming out of your account should be sent to your bank app, and your PIN should be entered by you to authorise. Now, I think that makes a lot of sense. What's your immediate reaction to that, Dave?
It does make a lot of sense. I mean, look, as he's saying, these scams are sophisticated. Do you know scammers can now even record your voice? There could be a scammer listening to you on the radio now, recording your voice, and those banks that have your voice as your password thing, they can record that, change the words, and they can get into your bank like that. They can even take your photos or videos online and use facial recognition. There's so many things that fraudsters can do. I speak to banks very often on my show. I'm always asking them about security, and surprise, surprise, they always dodge the question. They just say, yeah, we're keeping up to date, we're keeping an eye on it. It's not the answer. So if they can't keep you safe, you can't be expected to meet gone across that high bar in relation to negligence and what you're doing. There's no doubt about it. The banks have to pay out in these situations.
Just before I let you go, David from Croydon, my old hometown, Matthew, why should the bank's other customers have to pay for your stupidity in falling for a scam? If you're foolish enough to give away your login details when banks are constantly telling you not to, why should anybody else be responsible for it?
I actually hear that question often, not just about this, but we've got something else called Section 75, which is if something goes wrong, you pay on your credit card, you can get your card provider to give your money back, step in your shoes, and go and fight the trader. And people say the same things there. But actually, why should they not? Because they are providing you with this financial services. And often, Matthew, the bank contributed to the fraud by just not having the right systems in place. That's what happened to you. I mean, your other listener messaged in there and said, why do they not send a message to your app
Yes.
or your PIN?
Yeah.
Great idea. The bank's not doing it. So therefore, because they're not...
Okay.
Why...
Yes. Yes, Steve.
Then why should they not be compensating you? That's what to pay them for. By the way, banking's not free in this country. We do pay for it.
Great point. Thank you. So there you go, David. David in Croydon. That's told you. That's told you. So the phones are red hot, so I'll be taking all of your thoughts on scams, on banks, and how they deal with it. That will be after the LBC News headlines, of course, from Amelia Cox.
8 people have been arrested and 2 police officers are still in hospital after riots in Sunderland in the wake of the stabbings in Southport. The US has withdrawn a plea deal agreed with the man accused of planning 9/11 while being held at Guantanamo Bay. And Team GB has had its most successful start to the Olympics, breaking the record by winning 9 golds in the first 7 days of the Games. LBC weather, patchy cloud and scattered showers for Scotland and Northern Ireland, more isolated showers in the southeast but dry elsewhere, highs of 24 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff. It's heavy on the A1M northbound. 3 lanes are closed. The junction 1 for the M25 at South Mims because a car has overturned. That means it's also slow on the M25 clockwise at junction 23 for the A1M, where the exit to the road is partly blocked. In Wood Green, La Rose Lane is closed in both directions at Cranley Road because of a police investigation. It's heavy in Grange Hill. Manor Road is closed in both directions at Millwell Crescent because of an accident. On the Tube, because of engineering works, there's no service on the Piccadilly line between King's Cross and Pancras and Cockfosters, and there's no service on the Bakerloo line between Queen's Park and Harrow and Wealdstone, and there's no service on the District line between Parsons Green and Wimbledon. That's because of a problem with the signals.
LBC.
Right, guys. I'm gonna go now. I've got to take Max out for a walk later on, and I'll see you later. Interesting information there on scams.